So thank you everyone for coming for this session. My name is Vishal Shukla and I'm the CEO of Aviz Networks. Today we're going to be talking about SONiC migration and how you put AI for essentially doing the job and making it easier for you to migrate. Right? So let's get started. Before we actually talk about SONiC migration, I have a very basic question which people ask that, why migrate? Right? And typically in the context of, you're talking to customer and telling them that, look, I'm a Cisco house, I'm a Arista house, I'm a Juniper house, and essentially, why do I need to migrate? Right? So that's a basic question before we talk about how to migrate. Right? So essentially, I've been thinking about what would be the best way for me to, give an example which kind of understood by everyone and makes a case for migration, right? So essentially, let's look at this video. Well, so according to this video, the human evolved because there was this multi-pronged migration, as you have seen in this thing, right? And it says it evolved us to be here today, wherein I can talk to you guys, right? Otherwise, I think the people who started from Africa, they were happy there, right? I mean, what's the point of moving from Africa? But then, they went to this Indus Valley civilizations and other civilizations, but they always pushed the envelope to basically making sure that they evolve better. This is the whole reason of migration, to evolve better, right? Now, I just talked about a basic principle of why migration is required and everything, but now let's dive into the technology, right? So infrastructure evolution, right? So essentially, I keep, I think about the infrastructure evolution over the period of time in three different buckets. The first bucket is essentially specialized hardware, right? And you think about any infrastructure in the world, it actually goes through this. The first version of any innovation actually comes in a form of a specialized hardware and some sort of a software bundled together, right? Then the normalization and the standardization start to happen, and then the second version of it is a standardized infrastructure, right? And where what happens there is the application economy booms, right? So if for an example, Sun Solaris was example of version 1, and then Linux-based system wherein the applications came in on top as Oracle or SAP and everything is a classic example of infrastructure 2.0. Where infrastructure 3.0 goes is the infrastructure becomes commodity and it is all about data and the usage of data to basically make new use cases and make it more efficient, right? Networking is actually following the same right now. So let me just talk about that, how it looks like in context of networking. So I have broken it down into two different dimensions. The x-axis here is the network operating system and hardware. And then you have your network management, which is on the y-axis. So networking 1.0, as you can see, the specialized hardware comes pre-packaged with the way on how you're going to manage your system. Of course, it costs a lot. But then, 10 years back, I think some standardization happened in the industry with the merchant silicon and the standardization of how you deploy networks. So essentially, that's your 2.0, right? And industry is going towards 3.0. And as you can see, it is the superset in terms of the support of network operating system as well as hardware, and then how you can actually manage the systems. Networking 3.0 will support the existing SNMP-based systems, and it will also support data-driven LLM systems, right? So essentially, it will be superset of the ways on how things can happen, right? Now, for the migration, you need to have some triggers. right? You don't want to migrate just because you want to migrate, right? I mean, like the video I showed you, I think the people from Africa migrated because they wanted to have understanding how big the world is, right? And that's why you say they went north, and then they went towards towards India and everything in search of good rivers and agricultural land and all those things, right? So why migrate to networking 3.0, right? I think the two triggers there is SONiC and the advent of generative AI. So SONiC, why SONiC? Because this is essentially first time in the industry that we have switches ranging from 1 gig to 800 gig supported by all networking vendors in the world under a single way of managing the networks, right? That's first trigger. The second trigger is that now you are in the dawn of AI-assisted network management solution, which actually can make your migration very easy. It can take you from a template-driven if-else kind of statements to actually pattern-based statements. Now, we can do pattern in today's automation. This is possible, but then doing the pattern on multi-dimension, well, that's not possible on a scalable model. So essentially, at that point of time, you have to use AI, and essentially that's where I think this is the trigger. Now, for the mass migration, you will have to have these two technology ready. So first of all, you need to see SONiC is ready. So 3 different use cases: data center, edge networks, and AI fabrics. So data center is a proven use case for SONiC. Anyways, edge, Linux Foundation has just announced this PENS working group. We are the founding member of that working group, and our aim is to basically make it ready for edge, right? And then you have AI fabrics. A lot of examples are there in the AI fabric, which makes Rocky and the quality of service on the variety of ASICs working fine, right? So is it ready? Yes, and it is actually coexisting with existing network operating system. You have a lot of examples. We have a lot of customers wherein customers have SONiC as well as the legacy network operating system working in parallel. So you have 1 or 2 examples. Those are outliers. But then when you have 10 or 20 examples, that's a trend. Gen AI, right? Vendor agnostic AI for the NetOps, right? AI-driven migration recipes. Multiple use cases with no data lock-in and the data privacy. This is where the LLM-driven stuff is going. I had my colleague, Madhu, who gave a presentation a couple of days back and showed the power of generating the infrastructure as a code template, generating the graphs on the fly just by asking questions, right? Just saying that, hey, in my context, give me a template of 2 leaf and 2 spine with this range of IP address, right? That's a very simple, but what's a powerful example? You can think from 1 year from now, how much sophistication will be added on those models? Because look, I mean, this is an open source thing, driven models, right? So is it ready? I would say yes, by augmenting the existing automation. If I go back to this diagram, networking 3.0 or AI is not something which needs to be ripped and replaced. It needs to tie into the existing ecosystem, and that is why I use this word here, augmenting the existing automation and make it better. Make it better by using it just by plug and play, right? So now, getting back to migration, right? So we talked about why migration is required. We talked about what are the triggers of migration. But now let's talk about what is required actually in doing that, right? So essentially, before any customer has to migrate, they have to think through a lot of things, right? What kind of SONiC they are looking for? Community SONiC, vendor SONiC. They want to have ASIC diversification or switch diversification. What kind of cables and optics, the speeds, feeds, everything they want to use. So that's on the on the left-hand side here. Essentially, a lot of understanding from the customers itself. Then after that comes the real rubber hits the road kind of a situation wherein you have to actually now deploy, right? So it goes into 3 phases or modules, if you will. Pre-deployment, deployment, and post-deployment. So pre-deployment is all about test, right? Make it, be confident that your this new solution where you are migrating towards will be a quality solution. Then you have to put a sandbox CI/CD along with it. You have to make sure that anytime a new SONiC coming in, you are ready for that. Now, this work has to be done. You do it yourself or you get a vendor to do it. That's fine, but this work has to be done. Deployment, how do you create the recipes for migration? That comes under orchestration. Then how do you do the visibility, which can attach with your existing systems in form of APIs? Because you see, I mean, your dashboards are your dashboards. You like it the way you want to like it, right? If you don't have dashboards, then of course you can use the vendor dashboard. So a lot of API integration kind of thinking which needs to be done. And then the post-deployment, right? Now you are talking about open source, so how are you going to support it, right? What happens if your link goes down, switch goes off because the heat sensor was not working, right? Who do you call, and how do you get it fixed? So these are the, the thought process. And it has nothing to do with AI, by the way. This you have to do, or AI has to do, or somebody has to do, but this has to be done for the process, right? Now let's talk about how AI can help here, right? So normalizing SONiC with a source code access, well, that you're going to get from the community. AI has nothing to do in it. You will get it from community anyways, right? But now let's start the use of the AI. So single quality standard. It's a very big use case of AI. So think of the current way we test. We have a script which has a lot of if and else, and then it has probably some regular expressions, and then it says pass or fail. This is how we test today on a template based, right? The future of testing gonna be not between, not just pass and fail. It will be between that. Recognizing the patterns, release over release, day over day, config over config. It can tell you exactly that when version 1.2 was tested at that point of time with this configuration, CPU spiked from 10% to 20% when you shut this port. And probably that was fine, pass and everything. Next release, the CPU is spiking to 40%. Now still the script is passed, but that is the information you would like to know, that what patterns are not matching, right? This is a very important thing, and this is what we are doing at Aviz, by the way, to make sure that we are capturing the patterns, not just the if and else statements. The same thing for the infrastructure as a code. Now I give you one example. We are talking to a customer who over the period of last decade, I think have acquired some 10, 20 companies, and every company has their own ways of managing the network. Their use case is that I want a single standard to basically make sure that all of my companies use that. So how do you generate infrastructure as a code, which is always generated in a same way, irrespective of which engineer is generating it, right? That's where AI comes into picture. So that's essentially the first. Then the NetOps, I will not talk about NetOps. It's a very simple use case. Anybody can tell you that how to put AI in doing prediction and all these kind of things. But I will talk about the integration, which is the second point here. So let me ask you this question. What is one thing which sits between you and all the knowledge available on internet? It's just one text box which you use to find the knowledge on the internet. That's called google.com or bing.com or whatever it is, but it's a text box. You go there and you type, what do you need, right? And then it connects you to what do you need, right? That's the future of your tooling in your infrastructure. And that's where will be that AI framework, which will essentially talk to your tools, right? So for an example, you want information from the tool that, hey, look, I just had an outage, and I believe this outage was because of the transceiver did not work. Then like you do in Google today, that, hey, I wanna go to, let's say for an example, I wanna go to Portugal, so show me 10 places where I can go, and it will do the thing for you, give the result. Something similar you should be able to do with your AI, asking the question, I had an outage because of this transceiver. Tell me in past 5 years how many times this transceiver failed and how much I paid for it, by the way, right? And it's the vendor is deployed in how many places and everything, right? So you see, you have a single text box, but it is integrated with all of your tooling system, your tooling ecosystem. That's another use case, wherein, by the way, we are very excited about this use case in Aviz, and we're going to do that. We are seeing that already. We call it agent-based systems. Then single throat to choke, right? I mean, essentially keep on training your AI with the consistent data, time series data, so to make sure that you can do proactive and predictive support. And then essentially train the system for the in-house AI. I'm sorry, I'll just walking a little bit fast. I'm getting a signal from them for the time. Now you see a public example is there for the migration, as explained by eBay. This is a public information. You can actually look for it. And they talk a lot about how did they migrate. So essentially, it's all public information, right? This is our view on when we talk to customers, what do they look for. So essentially, customer looks for deployment qualification. They look for orchestration, visibility. Then they look for the application integration of some sort using APIs. And then they talk about nowadays that how do I use generative AI to stay upfront on the innovation, right? This is what we have done for creating a tool set for the customers. Creating a product for quality, creating a product for orchestration, for visibility, essentially creating industry's first multi-vendor data lake, which is a data lake which stays in customer prem. We don't store it anywhere. It just stays there, and customer has a granular control onto where they want to stream the data for this, right? And if they want to use Network Copilot, that's what all the AI I was talking to you about. The quality standard, the integration with your existing tools such as ServiceNow or Jira or Zendex, or make your own tools, right? And then supported with 24/7. Again, the tool has the AI assistance, which essentially looks at the pattern and goes beyond if and else statements, right? So how to migrate, right? We believe there are two ways to migrate. You can actually go bottoms up, normalize your SONiC, and then look for AI-driven NetOps systems to basically integrate with your existing fleet management system. That's one way of doing it. It's a time-consuming thing, but it works very well. We have a lot of experience to take it that way. The second one, which is a new one, is to start with AI. You essentially standardize your tools first to be able to be network operating system agnostic. So you standardize the tool wherein the tool does not care about it's a Cisco switch, it is a Arista switch, or it's AWS, or it is whatever it is, right? Train all the tools, integrate all the tools with this LLM, right? So these are the two ways how you can start. And essentially, I'll end now with the call to action. So essentially for the vendors, and we've been talking to all of our partners who are the vendors, leading vendors, providers of the switches and ASIC, is to make a SONiC ready for all different use cases. And we got some tremendous support from the ecosystem for this PENS work group, which we have created. Essentially, a lot of vendors came in together to be able to open source PoE 802.1x, IGMP snooping, so that we can take SONiC into edge use case. And then there is an AI-driven use case for which there is a work group already available, and most of the vendors are supporting it. Then move from feature-level quality to fabric-level quality. That's another one, right? So the test in the community has to think more about fabric, not just about feature, right? And then create open APIs for easy migration. So you see, this is one of the biggest problems we see when customer wants to migrate, because their APIs are not matching with what SONiC APIs are. And by the way, that's where we believe AI can help, because once you train the model, it can generate Arista APIs or Cisco APIs, whatever you want it to generate. It will generate, and not only generate, it will connect if it wants to connect. If it can generate an Ansible playbook, of course it can generate Cisco APIs, right? So this is not a big deal now. Call for the customers. So I think if customers are looking for deploy, I think they need to look at it from a top-down and bottom-up approach. The top-down approach essentially is using AI, standardizing the tool set first, and then look for NOS. The bottoms-up approach is you basically standardize the NOS, and then you look for your tool set. Look for community-driven solution. So we have actually a lot of customers who started SONiC with non-community, and then now they are realizing is that it's actually not only they are logged in, right, but they are paying for something which is their counterparts are using for free, right? And the other thing in community is that it thrives, right? It essentially gets a lot of features and advancement at a light speed pace, right? So this is our recommendation to all our customers to go community, and then look for vendor agnostic solution. That's the another one, right? And when I say vendor agnostic, it's not just about the ASIC or the switch or the NOS. It's about anything which you do. Don't put all of your eggs in one basket. That's what it is, right? So now I just want to finish this to where I started, right? So, we basically started with that video and we said 12,000 years of history when the agriculture revolution started. But I want to finish it on my personal experience on how I personally evolved, right? So I come from this left-hand side place, student from Indian Himalayan plains town. We don't have an airport in my village, so this is railway station, right? But then, I migrated from there to a city, did my schooling. From there, I migrated to a college, did my engineering. Then I migrated from there to, US, and then I did my MBA, and then, I'm an entrepreneur here, right? So one thing which is constant across this whole evolution is migration, right? So I want to leave you with this question. These human video, right? Human race video, or me, what it takes to make evolution possible, right? And I think you should take this question, think about it. And it's not just about SONiC or the AI or anything. Think about anything. This will apply in pretty much everything you do, right? So I would stop my session here for the questions from whoever. Questions? Okay, then. I think it was a great session. Thank you for your time, guys. And I'll see you again in the OCP probably in October. Thank you very much.